The small yellow pill tumbled through the air like a falling star, landing among coffee grounds and yesterday's dinner scraps. 6 more followed, white, blue, oblong, round, my heart medication disappearing one by one into the kitchen trash. My daughter-in-law, Vera, shook my empty pill organizer, making sure nothing remained inside. "What are you doing?" The question escaped my lips before I could stop myself. Vera turned, her mouth stretched in what might have passed for concern if not for the triumph blazing in her eyes. "What I should have done months ago, Eleanor." My son Lyle stood in the doorway, newspaper clutched in white-knuckled fingers, saying nothing. "Those pills cost $300 a month," Vera continued, setting the empty plastic container on the counter with a decisive click. "Do you know what we could do with that money? That's our future you're flushing away on unnecessary chemicals. My cardiologist says." "Your cardiologist gets kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies." She waved away my words. "My aunt never took a single pill and lived to 94. These doctors just want to keep you medicated and dependent." I looked toward Lyle, 47 years old, my only child, the boy I'd nursed through pneumonia at age 4, taught to ride a bicycle at 6, comforted through his first heartbreak at 16. Now he studied the kitchen tile pattern as if it contained the secrets of the universe. "Tell her," Vera commanded him. "Tell her how we discussed this, how we're concerned about her becoming dependent." Lyle cleared his throat. The doctor did say lifestyle changes could help. That was alongside medication, not instead of it. The betrayal burned worse than the angina I'd suffer without my prescriptions. Without these pills, I could have heart failure within weeks. "Stop being dramatic," Vera rolled her eyes. "You're wasting our inheritance on these pills. You're perfectly healthy." "Our inheritance. Not my health, not my life. Our inheritance." "I see." I nodded slowly, a strange calm settling over me. "I understand now." Relief flashed across Vera's face. "Good. It's for your own good anyway. I'll be in my room." As I turned to leave, I heard Vera's stage whisper to my son, "See? Even she knows I'm right." In my bedroom, I sat on the edge of my bed, my hands perfectly steady despite what had just happened. I hadn't always lived with them. Until last year, I'd had my own home, the one where I'd raised Lyle, where I'd cared for my husband through his long battle with cancer. Then came the fall, the broken hip, the surgery. Lyle and Vera had suggested I move in temporarily. "Sell my house to cover medical bills," they said. "We'll take care of you," they promised. Now I understood what care meant to them. I reached for my phone and made 3 calls. To my pharmacy, to my doctor, and finally, to a lawyer I hadn't spoken to in years. For the next 3 days, I moved through the house like a ghost, wincing occasionally, taking shallow breaths. Vera barely noticed, too busy planning how to spend my pill money on kitchen renovations. Lyle watched me with worried eyes but remained silent. On the 4th morning, I sat at the kitchen table with a stack of papers when they came down for breakfast. "What's all this?" Lyle asked, pouring his coffee. "Just putting my affairs in order," I replied. His face paled. "Mom, are you feeling worse?" Vera snorted. "She's fine. Probably better without all those chemicals." She buttered her toast with quick, angry strokes. "I wanted to discuss something important with both of you." My voice remained steady, betraying none of the thundering in my chest. They sat down, Vera checking her watch impatiently. I'd learned her morning routine well enough to know she had 20 minutes before needing to leave for work. "When your father died, Lyle, he left everything to me, including our savings and the house I sold to move in here." I tapped the papers in front of me. "I've made some changes to my arrangements." Vera leaned forward, suddenly interested. "I've transferred ownership of my remaining assets to a healthcare trust in my name. I've also moved all my savings into accounts that will only pay for medical expenses." "What does that mean?" Lyle's coffee cup hovered halfway to his mouth. "It means none of my money is part of my estate anymore. It belongs to a trust that exclusively pays for my healthcare needs." Vera's face flushed deep red. "You can't do that." "I already have, and the trust has specific conditions. If I die from heart failure or complications related to missed medication, a thorough investigation will be triggered." She stood up so quickly her chair toppled backward. "This is ridiculous. You're threatening us over a few pills?" "Not threatening. Protecting myself." I slid an envelope across the table. "This is a cashier's check for $2,000. That's your 30-day notice. I'm moving out." Lyle's mouth fell open. "You're leaving?" "I'm moving to a senior living community where my health will be monitored by professionals, not family members with conflicts of interest." I rose from the table, steadier than I'd felt in days. If you've been in a similar situation with difficult family dynamics, please hit that like button and share your experience in the comments. Sometimes the people closest to us can hurt us the most. Make sure to subscribe for more real-life stories that might help you navigate your own family challenges. My name is Eleanor Weiss, a retired high school English teacher with one son, Lyle, and his wife of 8 years, Vera. I'd never imagined at 72 I would become trapped in my own family's web of greed. After teaching teenagers about Greek tragedies for 40 years, I'd become an unwitting character in my own. The first warning signs appeared shortly after I moved in with them following my hip replacement. Small things vanished from my room: a silver picture frame, a pair of pearl earrings my husband had given me for our 30th anniversary. When questioned, Vera suggested I was becoming forgetful, perhaps early dementia. Lyle nodded along, concern etched in his features. "Mom, maybe we should see about getting you evaluated," he'd suggested gently. I knew my mind was sharp as ever, but doubt crept in. Was I misplacing things? The medication I took for pain sometimes made me drowsy. Perhaps I had moved these items and forgotten. Then my bank statements started arriving, already opened. "Just helping you organize," Vera explained. "You've got so much on your mind with recovery." Next came the financial advice. Vera worked in insurance and Lyle in real estate, a power couple who claimed expertise in money matters. "Your investment portfolio is too conservative," Vera told me over dinner one evening. "You should let us manage it. We could double your returns." When I declined, mentioning my financial advisor of 20 years, the atmosphere in the house chilled noticeably. "He's taking advantage of you," Vera insisted, "charging fees for doing nothing." The following week, I discovered they'd called my advisor, pretending to be acting on my behalf. He called to confirm the request to liquidate my accounts. "I never authorized that," I told him, while Lyle and Vera exchanged glances across the living room. "We were trying to help," Lyle said later. "That money will just sit there otherwise." The final straw came when I overheard them late one night, talking in the kitchen when they thought I was asleep. "Her heart condition isn't even that serious," Vera whispered. "The doctor's milking her for money with all these prescriptions. Meanwhile, we're stuck waiting for our inheritance while she burns through cash on medications." "She's my mother," Lyle replied, his voice strained. "And she's going to live another 20 years at this rate," Vera hissed. "We'll be 65 ourselves before we see a penny. Is that what you want? To spend our prime years caretaking instead of living?" Their voices lowered, and I crept back to my room, a coldness settling in my chest that had nothing to do with my heart condition. The next morning, Vera threw away my pills. Now, as I stood from the kitchen table 3 days later, having announced my plans to leave, Vera lunged across the table and grabbed my wrist. Her fingers dug into my skin like talons. "You ungrateful witch. We've taken care of you for months. You can't just walk away and lock your money up where it belongs to us." The mask had finally dropped. "Where it belongs to us." "Let go of me," I said calmly. "Not until you fix this. Call your lawyer and change it back." The moment her fingers had touched my skin, I'd pressed the emergency alert button in my pocket, a service I'd arranged after my first call 3 days earlier. When the doorbell rang minutes later, we all froze. 2 EMTs stood at the door responding to my alert. Behind them waited a police officer. "I pressed my alert because I was being physically threatened," I explained, showing them the marks forming on my wrist. The officer asked Vera to step outside. "This is absurd," she whirled toward Lyle. "Tell them your mother is confused. Tell them she's making this up." Lyle looked from her to me, then at the red marks on my arm. "Sir?" the officer prompted. Lyle swallowed hard. "I saw her grab my mother." The betrayal in Vera's eyes mirrored what must have been in mine days earlier when Lyle had failed to defend me against her. "You're choosing her over me?" Vera's voice vibrated with rage. One of the EMTs checked my vitals. "Your heart rate is elevated. Are you taking medication for your condition?" "I was," I replied, "until my daughter-in-law threw them away earlier this week. She said I was wasting their inheritance." The EMTs exchanged glances with the police officer. "We should take you to the hospital for evaluation," the EMT said. "I'd appreciate that," I replied, gathering my purse. As the officer spoke quietly into his radio, requesting another unit, I caught Lyle's eye. "I never wanted this," I told him softly. His face crumpled. "I know, Mom, I know." "Stress will do that," I said. "Let's talk outside." We sat on a bench in the courtyard, autumn leaves spiraling down around us. "The district attorney is pressing charges against Vera," Lyle began without preamble. "They're calling it elderly abuse, financial exploitation, and attempted murder." "Attempted murder?" I raised an eyebrow. That seems excessive. They're saying she deliberately withheld life-saving medication. Her lawyer thinks they're making an example of her. I watched a fallen leaf skitter across the pavement. And what do you think? Lyle's hands twisted in his lap. I think I failed you. I let Vera convince me you were exaggerating your condition. I let myself believe it because it was convenient. Because of the inheritance I supplied. His face reddened. We're underwater on the house. Vera's spent everything we had and more trying to keep up appearances. I was desperate. So desperate you'd risk my life? I never thought it would go that far. His voice rose, drawing glances from a couple walking nearby. He lowered his tone. I told myself it was just cutting unnecessary expenses. I studied my son's face, the lines around his eyes that hadn't been there a few years ago, the gray threading through his hair. When had he become so worn down? So compromised? What happens now? I asked. Vera wants you to drop the charges. She's facing prison time, Mom. And you? What do you want? He sighed deeply. I want to turn back time. I want to be the son you deserved. That's not possible. Then I want to make amends somehow. Tell me what to do. I considered his request. Was there anything he could do to rebuild what had been broken? Trust, once shattered, rarely reassembles without showing cracks. I need time, Lyle. This isn't something we can fix in one conversation. Will you at least consider dropping the charges against Vera? For my sake? The awe through the ambulance window, I watched veridacity of his request stun-guessed me. She threw away medication, eatering wildly as Ni. She spoke to the second officer who'd to stay, had arrived alive. D. She made a terrible Lyle stood on the lawn between mistake. But two prison worlds? Mom, the police car, think where his about what that would do to us. Wife. In that was being questioned, and the ambulance where his mother sat moment. I saw with heart monitor already painful clarity how little ha attached to my D changed, even chest now. His concern? Are you pressing Sentier charges for Eldred on himself and abuse? The EMT asked as we pulled Vera. Not on my well-being or the danger away. Yes, bin, I replied, and in. Ild, I have consider it, I said. Paperwork ready, knowing I have for a restrad no intention of doing so. I need to rest in order. Lyle grew smaller and now. As we walked the distance, AD back to the entrance, a still diminishing figure Kautek black car pulled into the parking between Loyalty lot. A woman to his mother and Alec Immergiance to his wife. For the tall, elegant, with silver hair first time in our cut shared history, I couldn't predict in a stylish bob. She spotted us what he would choose. Your NW Bluived. Who'd pressure is concerning's that? Lyle asked. My new, the EMT said, adjusting something financial on the monitor. How advisor? I replied. We haven't long have you been without your medication. 3 days. The Ambul appointment. The woman approached, Ants turned a hand extended. Miss Corner, Weiss, I'm Claire Dew and Mymont Old Life. Am I early disappeared from view? Not at all. This the hospital is my... I was wheeled directly, son, Lyle. He to the cardiac ward. Was a FL just leaving. Claire Uri of activity surround shook Lyle's hand with me. Nurses drawing blood, doctors reviewing charts, monitors professional courtesy, beeping their but steady rhythm of concern her eyes were assessing. Doctor, financial Wilcox, advisor? Lyle questioned. My cardiologist for the what past 5 about years arrived the trust within the hour. His normally? The trust manages my Jove medicalial face at care. Claire helped with worry. Eleanor, what with other happened with matters? Claire, your medication smiled tightly. It's been? Your levels are dan a pleasure buckerously off, miss. I explained while A. Weiss and nurse took notes. Doctored, I have much to discuss. Lyle, look. Wilcox's expression dark D between us, clearly wanting to ask more and. I questions, but my expression'll need to discow document this. What your raged it. Daughter-in-law did qual all qualifies as elder abuse. With you tomorrow holding necessary, Mom. After he medication is a criminal drove offense. I'm already handling that aspect away. Claire turned to me. That was him? I told him. Right now? Yes. You need to get where right. He has no stabilized and figure out my next steps. Dr. Wilcox nodded. We idea what's coming'll keep. If you for of observation at least 2 ever found yourself caught days. Get between family, your levels, loyalty, backwear, and self-protection they need. Hit to be. After he, the like button. Sometimes the left. A hospital hardest decisions are the ones social worker named Marianne came that to see save us. Subscribe for me. Barely the 30 conclusion. with kin of this story, and find out exactly'd eyes and a know-how nonsense demeanor. Eleanor handles she reminde this betrayed me of myself. At that at age. Mrs. Weiss is not what you might expect. The next morning, I understand I met with in a difficult situation. Do you have somewhere safe, Martin, to go private after discharge? I've room at Willow Creek. Claire made joint arrangements with Golden Oaks Living Community us, spreading documents across the table. The investigation into your financial records. They have an opening revealed more than we next week. She looked surprise anticipated, Martin explained. That's Unus adjustually quick. Golden Oaks usuallying his glasses. Has a 6 unauthorized month waiting to temps list. Let's just say I've planned to access your accounts, dating back 18 to head. Months. I didn't mention the before your fall 5 and move figure deposit I'd wired 3 to Lyle days. Ago's home. 18 or the strings my lawyer months. The timeline shock had pulled with the director and me. That's when old friend Vera started suggesting I sell my D from college. Well, that house. Claire's excellent. Nodded. We found emails between Lyle and Vera discussing your assets in detail. They were planning this for some time. Martin slid a folder toward me. The police subpoenaed their computer records. This is just Marianne made notes a sample. On her tablet. And regarding the situation with your family, I've already spoken with the police and my lawyer. Her eyebrows rose slightly. I opened it. Reluct been busy. When summonantly confront tries to accelerating printiate your death forward emails between my financial son and his wife. Mom gain, its medications cost tends to motivate quick action. Marianne stayed a while nearly $4,000 longer, providing a year information about elder protection. Lyle had written, at this rate, their services and support groups. After won't be anything left. She left. I closed my eyes, exhaustion washing over me. The heart, Vera's response each monitor billed me. We need to get teeped steadily. Each power sound a reminder of what of attorney. Once we control, Vera had tried to take her finances from me. I woke to, we can make decisions alight about tap what on the treatment's door. Evening shadows are necessary. Nobody questions family stretched across the hospital members' room. Lyle acting stood in the doorway looking smaller somehow. Behalf of elderly parents diminished. The emails continued, becoming, can increasingly calculating I come in. His voice, credit. They act slightly. I nodded, researing myself higher against how to have the pillows. The me declared mentally doctors incompetent. They'd contacted nursing homes, say, you'll be okay. He no novered at for minimal care the edge of the BATD, not quite meeting my eyes. No thanks maximum cost. There to your wife's more, Claire, said gently. They took out. Lyle flinched. Mom, they've life insurance policy on you last charge year, naming themselves as beneficed her with elder abuse and assault. Aries. That's not illegal, I kept it self, but combine my voice steady. D with everything, did you know that's what wool else? D happened when you told the tick. It estable officer Theish's truth? He sat heavily otive. Martin finished. The DA in is the visitor building's chair. A strong case. I didn't know. I close what else to do. When I saw those marks on the folder, my hand trembling slightly. What your arm? What did you happens now? Think Vera's preliminary wool hearing is next week. D happened when she threw Lyle hasn't been charge away my medication. That was thud yet, but that Cole first D change. He'll claim attack he was under her. Lyle, not influence, I said, knowing the last. My son's tendency to, said you were wasting money. Avoy, that your doctors were ext responsibility. Perhaps, Martin agree aggravating your did, but these emails show condition. He rub and bed his face. I knew it active participant. I stared out was wrong the window, but she watching residents kept walking along saying, we garden needed to plan paths, some for our alone, some future, by hast with caning my death, retakers or, I never thought of family members. Which would I it that have way? Been his hia if D sen Vera had succeeded, apt up. I swa air mom, I never wanted to mind you herdished version of myself, medicated into. But you stew compliance, ored by and watch gond it happen. The betray entirely still burned, leaving my fresh son and his and raw wife to enjoy. The fruits of my life 40's work. -5 years, Lyle. I changed your diapers. Stayed up nights when you had fevers. Worked 2 jobs to put you through college after your father died. And you couldn't speak one word to protect me. Tears welled in his eyes. I don't know what happened to me. To us. When you moved in, Vera started talking about money constantly. Your accounts, your house proceeds, your retirement savings. It was like she became obsessed. And you? I got .ca taught up in it, the plans she'd make. The things we could do once we had he stopped ashamed. My money. Once I was dead and you had my money. I finished for him. She's being released on bail tomorrow morning, Lyle said after a long pause. Her parents are coming to get her. She can't come near you. That's a condition of her release. And you? Where will you go? He looked down at his hands. I don't know. Home, I guess. Our home. To wait for her. To take her side again. No. He shook his head. I told her I needed time to think. This isn't. I'm not the person I thought I was, Mom. I didn't protect you. I need to figure out why. Don't waste time on self-analysis, Lyle. The answer is simple. You chose money over me. He left shortly after, shoulders slumped in defeat. I wondered if I'd been too harsh, but the memory of Vera dumping my pills in the trash while Lyle watched silently hardened my heart. Some betrayals cut too deep for quick forgiveness. The next morning, Dr. Wilcox declared me stable enough to be released the following day, though not without strict instructions for follow-up care. I've spoken with Golden Oaks, he said. They'll have a nurse check on you daily for the first 2 weeks. Thank you, doctor. He hesitated. Eleanor, there's something else. The police asked about the medical aspects of your case. Your daughter-in-law's actions created a genuinely life-threatening situation. They're considering upgrading the charges. I nodded. Whatever they need from me, I'll cooperate. After he left, I received another visitor. A trim woman in her 60s with silver hair cut in a precise bob. She introduced herself as Detective Rose Keller. Mrs. Weiss, I'm handling the investigation into what happened at your son's home. She settled into the chair beside my bed. I've reviewed the initial report, but I'd like to hear the whole story from you. For the next hour, I detailed the events leading up to Vera throwing away my medication, the missing jewelry, the opened mail, the unauthorized contact with my financial advisor, and finally, the conversation I'd overheard about waiting for their inheritance. Detective Keller took careful notes. You mentioned setting up a healthcare trust before the confrontation. That suggests you anticipated problems. I recognize the signs of financial elder abuse, I explained. I taught high school for 40 years, Detective. I've seen manipulative behavior in every form imaginable. And your son? Do you believe he was fully complicit? I thought about Lyle's face when he'd admitted to the officer that Vera had grabbed me. I think he's weak. He wanted what she wanted, but didn't want to admit what they were doing. That's often how these cases unfold, Detective Keller said. One aggressor, one enabler, both responsible. She closed her notebook. Mrs. Weiss, based on our investigation so far, your daughter-in-law will likely face serious charges. Elder abuse involving medical neglect carries significant penalties. And Lyle? That depends partly on you. Do you want to pursue charges against him as well? The question caught me off guard. Did I want my only child to face criminal charges? The thought made my recently stabilized heart flutter uncomfortably. I need time to consider that. Of course. She handed me her card. Call me when you decide. And Mrs. Weiss, you're doing the right thing. Many victims of elder abuse never report it, especially when it's family. After Detective Keller left, I stared out the window at the hospital parking lot below. Families walked together, supporting elderly relatives to cars, carrying flowers and get-well balloons. Normal families. Families who didn't calculate the financial benefit of a parent's death. My phone rang. It was Arthur, my lawyer. Eleanor, good news. I've completed the paperwork for your new living arrangements. Golden Oaks is ready for you tomorrow. I've also filed the restraining order against Vera, and it's been granted. Thank you, Arthur. What about the trust arrangements? All settled. Your assets are secured in the healthcare trust as you requested. If you pass away due to your heart condition within the next year, the terms trigger an automatic investigation. And of course, your revised will leaves nothing to either Lyle or Vera. Perfect. I felt a heaviness in my chest that wasn't medical. Any word on the criminal case? The prosecutor is taking it seriously. Vera's looking at felony charges. As for Lyle, that's up to you. I closed my eyes. I'll decide after I'm settled at Golden Oaks. There's one more thing, Arthur said. Vera's parents called my office. They're requesting a meeting with you. Something about making amends. Amends? I nearly laughed. Their daughter tried to kill me for money, and they want to make amends? They seemed genuinely distressed. Said they had no idea what Vera had been doing. I'll think about it, I said, though I had no intention of meeting with them. After I'm settled. That night, alone in my hospital room, I scrolled through old photos on my phone. Lyle as a toddler, beaming with his first lost tooth. Teenage Lyle at his high school graduation. Lyle on his wedding day, looking at Vera with such adoration it hurt to see it now. Where had that boy gone? When had he become a man who could watch silently as his wife endangered his mother's life? A text message appeared on my screen. "Mom, I'm so sorry. Please tell me how to make this right." I set the phone aside without responding. Some betrayals can't be undone with an apology. Some wounds need more than words to heal. And some revenge requires patience. If you've ever had to stand up for yourself against family members who betrayed your trust, hit that like button. It's one of the hardest things we ever have to do. Subscribe for the final part of this story to see how Eleanor handles this painful family situation. Leave a comment if you've faced similar challenges with relatives who put money before love. The morning sun filtered through the blinds of my new bedroom at Golden Oaks. After a week here, the space had begun to feel familiar. Not home, exactly, but a refuge. I'd arranged my few possessions carefully. Family photos, the older ones from happier times, my collection of first edition classics, and the quilt my mother had made for me decades ago. The nurse finished checking my blood pressure with a satisfied nod. "Much better today, Eleanor. Your numbers are stabilizing nicely." "Thank you, Nicole." After she left, I sipped my tea and opened my tablet to check my calendar. Today marked 3 weeks since the incident, as my therapist gently called it. 3 weeks since my own son had stood by while his wife tried to accelerate my death. My phone buzzed with a text from Claire. "Court appearance at 2 p.m. Arthur will pick you up at 1. Feeling ready?" I typed back a simple yes. The preliminary hearing for Vera's case had been postponed twice already due to legal maneuvering by her attorney. Today would be my first time seeing her since that day in the kitchen. My first time seeing Lyle, too. He'd continued sending texts and voicemails, each more desperate than the last, but I'd maintained my silence. A knock at my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called. Martin, my financial advisor, entered carrying a leather portfolio. "Good morning, Eleanor. I've brought those documents for you to sign." We settled at the small table by the window. Golden oaks spread out below us, manicured gardens where residents walked, benches where they chatted, a gazebo where a Tai Chi class was currently in progress. "The restructuring is complete," Martin explained, opening his portfolio. "Your assets are now fully protected in the irrevocable trust we discussed. The monthly stipend to your account will continue automatically." "And Lyle can't touch any of it?" I confirmed. "Not a penny. The trust specifically excludes both Lyle and Vera from any benefit, now or after your passing." I signed where indicated, initialing each page with careful precision. "There's been another development," Martin said, adjusting his glasses. "Lyle attempted to contact me directly. He wanted to discuss your finances." "What did he want?" "He claims he's worried about you being taken advantage of by new advisors who don't have your best interests at heart." Martin's mouth twisted with irony. I reminded him that our fiduciary responsibility is solely to you, and that all communications regarding your finances must go through you or Arthur. I nodded, unsurprised. "He's desperate. The DA told me they're building a case against him too. Will you support that?" I stared out at the gardens, watching an elderly man carefully tend to a rose bush. "I haven't decided." After Martin left, I prepared for court: a navy blue dress, pearl earrings, sensible shoes, professional, dignified. The woman who had taught high school English for 40 years, not the betrayed mother who sometimes woke gasping from nightmares of pills tumbling into garbage. Arthur arrived promptly at 1. Tall, silver-haired, with the careful manner of someone who measured his words before speaking. He'd been my lawyer since my husband's death 15 years ago. "You look well, Eleanor," he said as he drove. "How are you settling in?" "Better than expected. The staff is attentive. I've joined a book club and a gardening committee." "Friends?" "A few potential ones. Time will tell." Arthur nodded. "And how are you feeling about today?" I considered the question. Resolved. Not angry anymore. Just resolved. The courthouse loomed ahead, its stone facade imposing against the autumn sky. Arthur escorted me inside, past security and up to the second floor, where a small crowd of reporters waited outside courtroom 4B. "Elder abuse cases don't usually attract media," Arthur murmured, "but attempted murder for inheritance gets attention." Inside, the courtroom was half full. District Attorney Helena Marsh greeted us near the prosecution table, her handshake firm. "Mrs. Weiss, thank you for coming. We'll present the evidence we've gathered so far, and the judge will determine if there's enough to proceed to trial." And my testimony? Not today. That would come during the actual trial. Today is just procedural. We took seats in the front row. Minutes later, a side door opened and Vera entered with her attorney, Amidea, a thin man with an expensive suit and permanent frown. She looked smaller somehow, her usual confident posture diminished. She wore a modest gray dress, her makeup minimal, hair pulled back simply. Playing the role of the misunderstood daughter-in-law, I thought grimly. Behind her came Lyle, my breath caught at the sight of him, unshaven, eyes hollow, wearing a suit that hung loosely on his frame. He'd lost weight. When he saw me, he froze momentarily, his expression a mixture of hope and dread. I turned away. The proceedings began with formal charges: elder abuse, assault, attempted murder. Vera pleaded not guilty to all counts, her voice barely audible. The prosecutor outlined their evidence, my medical records showing what would happen without medication, witness statements from the EMTs and police officer, and most damning, text messages between Lyle and Vera discussing how quickly my health might decline without chemical intervention. I kept my face expressionless, though each new revelation felt like another betrayal. They'd discussed it, planned it, calculated it. The defense argued that Vera had genuine concerns about over-medication of elderly patients, citing articles about pharmaceutical overprescription. They painted her as caring but misguided, not malicious. Mrs. Anderson acted out of concern for her mother-in-law's long-term health, her attorney insisted. Misguided perhaps, but not criminal intent. The prosecutor countered sharply. Throwing away heart medication while telling the victim she's wasting their inheritance isn't misguided concern. It's premeditated abuse motivated by financial gain. The judge set a trial date for January, denied a motion to dismiss charges, and maintained Vera's bail conditions, including the restraining order keeping her away from me. As we left the courtroom, Lyle attempted to approach. Arthur stepped between us. My client has a restraining order against your wife, Mr. Weiss. I suggest you keep your distance as well. Mom, please. Lyle called over Arthur's shoulder. Just 5 minutes. I hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes. In the conference room. Arthur looked concerned. Are you sure? Yes, wait outside, please. The small conference room felt airless. Lyle sat across from me, hands clasped tightly on the table between us. Thank you for seeing me, he began. I've been so worried. Have you? Of course, Mom, I've been sick about this. I can't sleep, I can't eat. Because your wife might go to prison? Or because you might join her there? His face paled. The DA called me in for questioning yesterday. And they think I was involved, that I knew what Vera was planning. Weren't you? Didn't you? He swallowed hard. I knew she was upset about your medication costs. I never thought she'd actually throw them away. But you discussed it. The prosecutor mentioned text messages. That was theoretical, just venting. I studied my son's face, the boy I'd raised, now a middle-aged man facing consequences for the first time. Do you remember what you told me when you were 16 and got caught drinking at Tommy Miller's house? You said, I was just there, Mom. I wasn't actually doing anything wrong. Even then, you couldn't accept responsibility. This isn't the same. It's exactly the same. You've always been willing to let things happen around you while pretending you're not involved. I gathered my purse and stood. The DA has asked if I want them to pursue charges against you. I'm still deciding. Mom, please. Lyle's voice broke. I'll do anything. I've filed for divorce. I'm selling the house. I know I can't undo what happened, but I'm trying to make it right. Divorce? You'd leave Vera while she's facing criminal charges? She tried to hurt you. She used me. All she ever cared about was your money, and I was too blind to see it. I felt a chill. Even now, he was positioning himself as a victim rather than a participant. The realization cemented my decision. I'll speak with the DA tomorrow, I said. Goodbye, Lyle. Returning home to Golden Oaks, I found an unexpected visitor waiting in the lobby, Detective Keller. Mrs. Weiss, she greeted me. Do you have a moment? We walked through the gardens, fall leaves crunching beneath our feet. The evidence against your daughter-in-law is substantial, she said, but your son's involvement is murkier. Not from where I stand. I understand, but proving criminal intent is complicated. The texts show discussion, but stop short of explicit agreement to the action. I stopped walking. What are you saying? Without your testimony against him, the DA might focus solely on Vera. And let Lyle escape consequences? Detective Keller sighed. Justice isn't always perfect, Mrs. Weiss. Sometimes it's about getting the best outcome possible. That night, I sat on my balcony, watching darkness settle over the grounds. The detective's words echoed in my mind. Justice isn't always perfect. Sometimes it's about getting the best outcome possible. I'd spent 3 weeks planning, coordinating with Arthur, Claire, and Martin, setting pieces in motion. Was I ready to see it through? The answer came with surprising clarity. Yes, I was. The next day, I called Helena Marsh. I've made my decision regarding charges against my son. And, the DA asked, I don't want to pursue them. Mrs. Weiss, are you certain? The evidence suggests. I'm certain. Focus on Vera. She was the instigator. After hanging up, I made a second call to Detective Keller. I'd like to speak with Vera's parents. Can you arrange it? 1 week later, I sat across from George and Patricia Harper in Golden Oaks' private dining room. Both in their 70s, they looked shattered by their daughter's actions. Thank you for seeing us, George began. We wanted to apologize personally for what Vera did. We had no idea, Patricia added, eyes welling with tears. We raised her better than this. I nodded. I believe you, which is why I wanted to discuss something important with you both. For the next hour, we talked. By the time they left, arrangements had been made. My revenge was nearly complete. 2 days before Christmas, my plan culminated. I sat in my living room at Golden Oaks, surrounded by Arthur, Claire, Detective Keller, and a court stenographer. On the coffee table lay final documents awaiting signatures. My phone rang. Lyle. Mom, the DA dropped the charges against me. They said you requested it. That's right. Thank you. His voice cracked. I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I promise I'll make it up to you. I've been thinking about what you said about responsibility. You were right. I'm glad to hear that. I kept my voice neutral. What about Vera? Have you spoken with her? No. The divorce is proceeding. Her parents have been helping with her legal fees, but they're nearly bankrupt from it. That's unfortunate. I know this is a lot to ask, but could we have dinner sometime? Maybe for Christmas? I'm afraid I have plans, I replied. But we'll talk soon. I promise. After we hung up, I signed the final document. Arthur collected it with a solemn nod. It's done, he confirmed. Here was my revenge, carefully crafted over weeks. While refusing to testify against Lyle, I had secretly transferred every penny of my remaining assets, nearly $2 million, into a special victims advocacy trust. This trust, administered by Vera's parents, would fund legal representation for elderly victims of abuse. The crowning touch? Lyle would receive nothing from me, not 1 penny. Instead, when Vera inevitably went to prison, her parents would receive monthly payments from my trust to cover their expenses and legal fees. My son, who had chosen money over my life, would be left with nothing but a mortgage on a house he couldn't afford, divorce proceedings he couldn't stop, and the knowledge that the fortune he'd been so eager to inherit was being used to help people like me. The irony was perfect. The money he'd been willing to kill for would instead support his estranged wife's family and help prosecute people exactly like him. Will you tell him? Claire asked. Eventually, I said, when it's too late to change anything. 3 days after Christmas, I invited Lyle to Golden Oaks for tea. As he sat across from me, hope bright in his eyes, I handed him an envelope containing documentation of the trust arrangements. What's this? He asked. My final gift to you, I replied. A lesson about consequences. His expression as he read the documents would stay with me forever. The dawning horror, the disbelief, the realization that his betrayal had cost him everything. This can't be legal, he whispered. It's perfectly legal, I assured him. Arthur made certain of that. You've left me nothing and given money to Vera's family? No. I've given you the most valuable thing possible, the truth about yourself. What you do with that truth is up to you. Have you ever had to teach someone a difficult lesson about betrayal? Hit that like button and share your experience in the comments. Sometimes the most powerful revenge isn't about hurting someone, but about making sure they truly understand what they've done. Subscribe for more real-life stories about family, trust, and the consequences of broken bonds. Thanks for listening to Eleanor's journey.